And just like that, the curtain comes down on another Six Nations Championship. The results are all in the history book now. Super Saturday is done and dusted with the final whistle just having blown in Paris between France and Scotland, where it finished France 35, Scotland 16. So, félicitations pour votre victoire. Le Super Samedi appartient à la France. Yeah, Super Saturday belongs to France. And I'm glad it was a convincing win in the end, because that could have that could have made the pain, well, I guess for England fans and Scotland fans, the pain could have been greater had it been a much, much closer match. But no, the best team won the championship. And for what is an incredibly talented French team, I'm really pleased that they've got a bit of silverware to show for it, because it's only the second title in Fabien Galtier's era, which I would imagine the French rugby public, passionate as they are, the French team, coaches, all of them would think that wasn't enough of a return on the talent that they have got. It is an incredible crop of players that they've got. They are the best team in the Northern Hemisphere, and they've just demonstrated that. Ireland are really, really close, level pegging. England are coming up fast. Scotland, as they demonstrated, can live with the best teams. But over 80 minutes, not so much. They gave it a proper crack, though, didn't they? These are just going to be my thoughts immediately following the full-time whistle. Game's just finished. I was going through every single moment of it like a fan, so I'm just going to splurge out what I can think. I might come back again with another video with a little bit more reasoned thoughts, but these are just firing straight off the top of my head following the game. And I want to know what you think. While the emotion is still raw, that is what I love about the comments and the conversations that we can get into after these videos, is that the feelings are so raw. So let rip. I have to say, obviously, I say congratulations to France. Under 20s, they won that. They've won the Six Nations proper as well. And some records have been broken in this game. Thomas Ramos is now the highest point scorer in the history of French rugby, and an amazing achievement for him. You've got Louis Bielbiere, who's equalled the most number of tries ever scored in a single tournament, along with Cyril Lowe from 1914, Ian Smith from 1925, so records that have stood for 100 years or more. Admittedly, Louis Bielbiere has done it in 5 games, the others did it in 4 matches, but nonetheless, it's an incredible achievement for him. And France, as a team, have scored more tries in a single tournament than any team has ever managed to, eclipsing England's record in 2001, and France chalked up their 30th try in the match. Damien Penaud's going to have to wait to become the top try scorer, but the way Louis Bielbiere is going, it might be him that gets there first to eclipse the great Serge Blanco. So I reckon it should be the law. Now, I'm not a fan of World Rugby's laws, and I'll get into some of that when it comes to the officiating decisions in a minute. But one law I would like World Rugby to make is that France have to play games at night, because the light show, the pyros, the atmosphere, I absolutely love the Stade de France on a night game. And it was fitting that it was under the Saturday night lights that France clinched the title. Fair play to Scotland. They gave it a proper crack. They really did. And it feels patronising to say, oh, well done, brave Scotland. But they ran for just about double the number of metres that Scotland did. Over 1,000 metres. And that says 2 things. One, France's defence, scramble defence, had to be brilliant to keep Scotland out. Secondly, Scotland, if they are going to live with these top teams, they've got so much talent. But if they're going to convert, they've just got to do that. They've got to convert when they have the opportunities, and they had so many. And for all that effort to only come away with 16 points, that's going to hurt. There was a point I was going, are Scotland actually going to do England that favour? But no. I guess at least from an England and a Scotland fan's point of view, at least there was no controversial moments in that match. At least there was nothing to complain about. No, let me get straight into that, shall we? Shall I just jump straight in with the controversial bits? I said this is like straight off the top of my head. I reckon this is the thing that people are going to be talking about. And tell me if it sounds like I'm being salty. I'm trying to be impartial and a rugby fan first and not an Englishman. I've got the tricolour on out of respect and to congratulate France. But Piato Malvaca, the diving headbutt into Ben White. My thought when I watched that was either that is egregious foul play and it's a straight red card and a full red card. And we don't see many of those anymore. We have these 20-minute red cards, which is fine. But when it's something egregious, that's what a red card is for. It's either a red card or the ref should go old school and make the two players stand up, shake each other's hand and say, get on with the game. There is no in between. So the fact it was given as a yellow card and referred to the bunker, I do not understand. Am I wrong on this? Is this bias on my part that I'm thinking this was straight red? It came back and saying it's a yellow only because it wasn't a high degree of danger. I've checked on this, and that is going through that framework that referees and TMO bunker officials can use where it's mitigation. And that's the sort of thing they use on high tackles. They look at the mitigation. But here is a phrase straight out of the World Rugby Law Book. Quote, mitigation will not apply for intentional or always illegal acts of foul play. Which is where I come back to the decision. It's either nothing or everything. If that was an intentional act of foul play, mitigation doesn't come into it. So that was frustrating, I have to say. Add to that, at the end of the first half, Tom Jordan's try being chalked off. Fine, okay, it's chalked off. Can we see the replay? Oh no, you're not going to let us see that. Was that the infamous French TV directors doing French TV director things, or was that Matthew Carley not asking for a replay? I don't understand. This is the biggest moment of the competition, the finale of it. I'm not saying that Tom Jordan's try should have stood. I'm saying that everyone watching the game, all the millions of them in France, in England, in Scotland, in Ireland, in Wales, Italy, and around the world, deserve to see why that decision was given as it was, being as it was so pivotal at that point. It would have put Scotland into the lead, but instead, in their wisdom, whether it was the broadcasters, whether it was the referee and the officials, I don't know, but they decided, no, we don't need to see that important moment. So rugby does shoot itself in the foot sometimes, doesn't it? I want to emphasise the positive because I'm really, really happy and excited about this French team. And I don't want to be talking about this stuff. So yeah, tell me if you think I'm just being salty and being typically English. Like I say, I do believe the best team won the competition, and I'm really pleased for France. They're a team stacked full of superstars. When you look across their team, obviously Antoine Dupont on crutches, pleased for him, but Penaud, Lebeep Beep, Aldrit, Cross, Ramos, Flamont, Miafu, the names just roll off the tongue, and Tamac. And they've got a new generation. The next gen of French players have really stepped up in this competition as well. Boudahan and Moafana being a couple of them, and others that weren't in the matchday squad this time. Atisogbe, Jegu was there, again off the bench. Gros has been brilliant in this competition. They are in a very, very good place when you look ahead to Australia in 2027. So the top 14's flying the crest of a wave. They've put a lot of work in to get all these young players coming through. French rugby is in rude health, and I'm delighted from that point of view because it's great for world rugby that France are as strong as they are. And when you look to some of the games this year, France against South Africa in November is going to be like box office dynamite rugby, up there with the biggest games of the year. And I already can't wait for the Six Nations again to see England go up against France, to see Ireland against France again, and the way Scotland played, to see Scotland go up against France. I think Scotland, as I said on the video the other day, match up really well with France. Two teams that are deadly in the turnover and are willing to take a risk. And that does mean you have lots of those transitions. And we saw how deadly Scotland can be with Rory Darge and Jamie Ritchie on the floor. And Matt Fagerson was huge, giving opportunities for Blair Kinghorn, who was magnificent. Darcy Graham. Blair Kinghorn was awesome. Blair Kinghorn, Rory Darge, Ben White, Finn Russell, Darcy Graham, Xander Fagerson, all on the Lions tour with Matt Fagerson. Bearing in mind he hasn't started this tournament, man alive did he take the opportunity to make a point to Andy Farrell about how good he is. Tom Jordan as well. Scotland have got some proper players. And when you look into the actual match then, let's get into that for a second. The dangers were there. The signs were there early on. Scotland were on the attack. And then straight away, bang, one moment. France have soaked up all this. And Temac breaks, counters. Could have given a scoring pass, could he, to Louis Bielbiere? Luku was with him as well. Held on to it a little bit too long. But all of that pressure led to the Jamie Ritchie yellow card, which was correct. It was cynical. But it just feels wrong that yellow card for a cynical pulling down of a maul had the same sanction as a deliberate, intentional act of foul play that Malvaka gave. It just, again, I need to stop going on about that. Try for Moafana, pure power, class from Fiku, who was back in the side. And then it was tip passes from the forwards, Antonio and Groh together. And Scotland were having to soak up loads and loads of pressure. They then got an attack in France's 22. Quick tap on the penalty, but messed it up. That all led to the Malvaca incident. I'm not going to go on about that anymore. 10-3 it was, then 13-3. And then after soaking up all of that pressure, Scotland do finally score. Darcy Graham, Finn Russell lined up one of the defenders, picked off Darcy Graham, bang, he's through a hole, and he's in. And what I thought was really good about Scotland is they just went that little bit wider straight from the base. So when the forward runner wasn't running at the guy close to the breakdown or the one next to him, he was the third or fourth player out and getting a little bit more of a head of steam. And France don't blitz as much as they used to. They've softened their defence a little bit. So Scotland were actually getting a little bit of go forward, which was really good to see. And when Jean-Baptiste Gros got his yellow card, it was 13-all. And you thought, there's some momentum building for Scotland here. 16 points to 13, penalty for Ramos. Was that the one that he broke the record on? I think it was. And then Tom Jordan thought he'd scored. Didn't. Foot in touch somewhere. Blair Kinghorn after a searing break. How quick is he? Put a foot in touch somewhere, but no replay. So I haven't got a clue how or why or when or what. But Scotland could have been ahead and they weren't. France probably should have been down to 14 men for the whole game, but they weren't. Fortunately, I think, like I say, fortunately, France showed the class that they have and showed that any disagreement with the decision wouldn't have had any impact on the actual outcome of the game because they have too much class, too much power off the bench. They went to their maul game, which was massive. That sapped the energy of those Scottish forwards who really, really put in a shift. I thought Gregor Brown as well, who came in. I was a bit dubious about the Scottish second row depth without Cummings. And who's the other player that's missing? Williamson. But fair play, Gregor Brown had a big game as well. There was a big moment though, I thought. Scotland were really bright in the start of that second half. Big moment. And hindsight is 20/20, like I say. But I think if they could go back and do it again, Scotland had a bit of pressure. They're knocking on the door. Could have led to maybe another yellow card for France if they'd have kept in their 22 and hammering away at the door and France coughing up penalties. And Scotland went for 3 points. And I remember thinking at the time, come on, no, this is that moment in a game. And you sometimes, I understand going for the 3, scoreboard pressure and all the rest of it. And had Scotland not done that, people might, and it been a close game, people might have said, why didn't you take the 3? So, you know what? You never know the alternative or what might happen. But I just felt that was the moment to go for the jugular a little bit. As it happened, it's probably irrelevant anyway because France dropped the hammer. Le Bomb squad came on. That sucker punch try from Louis Bielbiere, the scramble defence from France. Finn Russell was close to putting Scotland in. Gael Fickou tackled him just in time, dislodged the ball. Brilliant pick-up from Ntamak. The wheels of Bielbiere, and he's in for a try. Followed up by Thomas Ramos after a huge maul. They really deserve that try for France, the forwards. Then Mo Afana scored. Game over. And then the sort of, I don't really remember much about the last 10-15 minutes because it was just kind of waiting for the inevitable victoire for France to pick up the trophy. They have been the best team. Their performance in Dublin last weekend was sensational. The fact that Scotland put as much pressure as they did on France in this game, ran for as many metres and only scored 16 points, says that France are not just a flair team. France have got a proper defence, proper heart and soul and muscle and togetherness. But they've also got that little bit of X factor, which sometimes comes in the form of Ntamak, sometimes in the form of Old Drit, who was just awesome again. Luku was fantastic once more, and Labeep Beep and others. They are a proper rugby team. Deserve to win the Six Nations. Those are my immediate thoughts following the full-time whistle. What are yours?